Paula leads PwC's Governance Insights Center.
Correct.
Paula, let me just start by asking you what the biggest red flags are for activists these days.
So, fortunately or unfortunately, it's performance, right? Activists are looking to make money, which is fine. That's going to be their primary screener, I think, that they're going to look at when they start to look at companies. However, that's day one. But once you start to get into that, and they feel like, okay, the performance hasn't been achieving what they were looking for the last several years, they're going to look to opportunity, right? They're opportunistic. So, what's in there? What do they think they can do with it? And then
these are the levers that people talk about?
Yep, they'll start to look at that, and then they'll go deeper and say, okay, is this the right management team? Is this the right board to really drive this, what we think is an opportunity here? And that's where things start to get really interesting.
Will they look for obvious things like conflicts or tenure that seems longer than average?
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to look at board composition, right? So who's on the board? How long have they been on the board? What are they bringing to the board? What's the value they're demonstrating? In most cases, so an activist is thinking that whatever the company's been doing for the last several years is apparently not working. And they're opportunistic that there's going to be something in the future that can be fixed that will do better, right? So they want to make sure that leadership team is there to be able to get that done, and the board is there to support that. So if it's the same board that's been around for a long time, that doesn't have any new skill sets, maybe doesn't have any diversity of thinking in the room, they're going to be skeptical about whether or not that group can really take it to the next level, can improve things. Because if they could have, why didn't they improve things before the activists showed up?
Short-term versus long-term value creation. It seems to be the kind of the crux of a lot of the conflict and drama that we're seeing. How does a board sort of analyze that or reconcile what seems to be, a conflicting view of that with the activists?
Well, first of all, I think I think you have to have conversations, right, with the activist as well as your other shareholders to understand what are they looking for from the company. If the activist is up front and says, I'm looking for a short-term return, that's really what I want out of this, then you know the agenda, and you have to decide whether or not your other shareholders are also interested in this short-term return, and then decide whether it's worth fighting or trying to support it. I think a lot of the good activists today are really interested in a long-term value, so hopefully your ideas are aligned and you can go at it together. Now, may have a different way of getting there than you do, but hopefully long-term value creation is the goal for all of your shareholders.
What would you say is best practice when it comes to composition these days?
I kind of like the composition where you have newer directors, kind of some midterm directors, and then some longer-term directors. Longer-term directors that have seen a business cycle or two, maybe seen a CEO or two, so they've kind of seen a little bit of the company landscape, but I like that mix. I think the newer directors hopefully are asking some really good questions, maybe bring some newer skills, some technology skills, some even current management skills into the boardroom, but then you've got some seasoned people there that can provide a different element.
So an average tenure number isn't going to necessarily be magical, that if it's below the S&P 500 or
I don't think average is going to do it for you. You got the devil's in the details there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you, Ron.